Girl, let's talk about Justin and Hailey Bieber because I feel like their story isn't talked about enough. Justin was 24 years old and Hailey was 21 when they stood in a courthouse in New York City and said, I do. No big dress, no grand ballroom, just the two of them and a decision that most adults spend years terrified working up the courage to make. And yet, at that same time, the whole world was already waiting to say, I told you so, hoping that things would fall apart. But guess what? They didn't. And in as much as people felt like they were wrong to make such a huge decision at such a young age, I don't think people understand how brave that actually was. Picture being that young and choosing forever, while millions of strangers are already placing bets on when it'll end. Every headline, every comment section had these words. These kids won't even last a year. Imagine loving someone that much, that young, and having to defend it before you've even gotten to enjoy it. But here's what nobody actually realized. Justin and Hailey didn't marry an idea of each other. They married the actual person. Flaws, chaos, growing pains and all. And they did something even harder. They stayed. So if you've ever been told that you're moving too fast, or loving too hard, or way too young, or that it's way too soon, I need you to hear this. Sometimes the people who rushed weren't reckless. They just refused to wait for permission to build a life with someone they already knew they wanted. See, growing up together isn't a mistake. Sometimes it's the bravest kind of love there is. Because the beautiful part is, you don't get to hide your rough edges from someone who's growing up right beside you. But loving each other young was only the beginning. What came next is the part that a lot of people neglect, because this is what showed that Justin and Hailey were committed to the vows they made. Picture this. You're having breakfast with your spouse. It's a totally normal Tuesday morning, nothing special. You're talking, laughing, nothing unusual, just catching up. And then a strange feeling starts crawling down your arm. You open your mouth to try to speak, and nothing comes out. That's exactly what happened to Hailey Bieber. At just 25 years old, across the table from the man she promised forever to, she experienced something scary. Imagine the terror in that moment, not just from her, but from Justin as well. Watching the person he loves the most in the entire world try to form words and completely fail. Watching her scared, confused, and not knowing yet how serious it was. That turned out to be a mini stroke, a blood clot in her brain, and a heart defect she'd been born with and never even knew about. And that's not all. Justin had his own version of that terror too, quietly living with Lyme disease, a case of mono, where his body was failing him in ways that got mocked online before anyone understood what was actually happening to him. Imagine being sick, scared, and having strangers make jokes instead of asking if you're okay. That's what Hailey and Justin Bieber went through. Two people, both blindsided by their own bodies, both terrified, and both showing up for each other anyway, in hospital rooms instead of red carpets. This was real life. And here's what nobody tells you about commitment. It never really gets tested on the wedding day. It gets tested by the version of your partner who shows up shaking in a waiting room at an hour where there's nothing beautiful or glamorous about it and chooses to stay anyway. So if you're wondering whether you found the one, don't just ask if you guys get along together on the fun and good days. Ask yourself, would they hold my hand in a hospital hallway, scared, right alongside with me? Because that's the real vow, not the one you say out loud in front of guests. Well, the good news is they survived that morning, both of them, more than once. But surviving a crisis isn't actually what keeps a marriage standing for years, and Justin and Hailey have been together for at least 7 years now. Here's what almost nobody talks about with Justin and Hailey Bieber. Not the wedding, not the health scares, but the ordinary Tuesdays. Because that's actually where marriage either survives or quietly falls apart. And because Hailey and Justin quietly and privately decide over and over again that their marriage is worth it, nobody's going to put it on a headline and celebrate them. Because sadly, we live in a world that treats love like it's disposable. People are told if it gets hard, if it gets boring, if the excitement fades even just a little, leave, start over, and try something new. But Justin and Hailey's marriage is a quiet argument against all of that. Not because it's been easy for them, but because it hasn't. And they stayed anyway. And I personally feel like that's worth celebrating. So if you're in a relationship right now, wondering if it's supposed to feel this ordinary sometimes, I want you to pay close attention to my next words. It is. The wedding is just one day. The illnesses, the crisis, the big dramatic moment, those are just days too. Most of your life together will be ordinary Tuesdays. And the couples who actually make it aren't the ones who never get bored. They're the ones who kept choosing each other on the boring days anyway.